Hey guys, in this video I will be talking about variables and object-oriented programming in general. Now Java adheres to such definition. We can think of a class, which if you remember from the previous video, is basically a Java file. And in a class we have a collection of related objects which all have the same behaviors. Now we can think of objects as real-world objects. So take my pet cat, for example. It will have behaviors such as running, walking, crying, and pooing. And take the states, for example. So we could have name, age, weight, height, and so on. So basically think of objects as real-world objects which have behaviors and states. And that's probably very important to know before you start programming properly, is the concepts of object-oriented programming. And there's a thing called encapsulation, which is basically where you hide an implementation of the class and you make the interface public. Now, I will show an example of this. So let's make a thing called a variable. And a variable is just how we assign a name of something to a piece of data. So let's use the access modifier private. Let's say it's a static, and let's say it's a type string, and our string is a collection of characters, and let's call this my name, and let's assign the variable called my name to Tom, and let's use a semicolon which tells Java that this piece of line has ended and it can go on to the next piece of code. So if you think of it, if you're the compiler, you're looking for the program and it sees a semicolon and thinks, let's go to the next line. Java doesn't care about the white space. So technically I could make the program like this, but it doesn't look very good and it's sort of hard to read. And if you can imagine lots of code, it will be very difficult to read. So the reason it looks like this format with the spaces and just the general format of the page, it's just that for humans. Now, if we look back to some of the code that we used before, private is called a method accessor. So public means that this class is available to every class we create in this package, in this folder. Private means that this variable can only be accessed in this class. You may be wondering, why do we need to do this? Well, once you start programming big programs, you will see the need in security and just ease of programming why we can use encapsulation. Now, this is what we call a state. Like I said, a state could be a name, and obviously the name is Tom. Next we need to create a behavior, remember. Behaviors are expressed in things called methods. Let's write the method now. Let's make it public. It's a static. We're not returning anything. That's not appropriate. And main string args. Now, let's think. How are we going to express this? Let's make another method. Let's make our own method. Let's make it public. Let's make it static. And it's returning a string. So we're going to return my name now. We need to get the info from here. And because it's string, we're going to be returning a string. And let's call it get name. We can call methods anything, so I could call it that if I really wanted to, but it's good to call it good names like get and set. So get the name as we're getting the name. And we can just put the curly brackets there. What does that say? Yes, we need to make a return statement, see? as I was saying, we can return my name. And all this will do is return that variable here whenever this method is called. Now, to call this method, we can go to the main method. Remember, the main method is executed when the program is first run. The program will look for the method main. So, let's call this method. How are we going to do that? You type in the method name, so get method. It's as simple as that. So, when this is called, this method will be executed. This method returns a string. Remember, the variable type is a string. Has the name my name. My name is assigned to the value Tom. And remember, in Java, strings need to be represented in quotes. So, when this method is called, we will call this method and it will return my name. And in this case, my name is assigned to Tom. So let's run the program. Okay. Yes. If you haven't noticed, I need to use the system.out.println. Remember, this method simply outputs text or characters or integers, basically anything, into the console. So let's save that again. And there we go. It's outputted Tom. Now, I hope you sort of get the concept of this. Have a little play around. Maybe make another method, static again. Maybe make it an integer. So use the int. And let's say my age. And because it's an integer, we don't need to use the quotes. We can just put, let's say, 108. And let's make another method called public static int. And let's say get age. And let's say return my age. Let's show another example of not using a return type int or string. Maybe we don't want to use the system.out.println anymore. So to do that, let's delete my age and make a new method called public static void. We use void because we're not going to be returning anything. We only use void when we don't use the return value. And let's call this get age. So instead of using the return, we use system.out.println, and let's say my age. And that's what's cool about Java. We can literally take the variable name here, put it there, and it will output this as my age has been assigned to 108. So if we wanted to call this method, remember we use the method name, we use get age, and we save, we run, and there we go. This may be a bit confusing. You may be wondering still why we're using static and stuff, but this will be covered in later videos. Like we don't actually have to use this and stuff. We could do that if we wanted to, but it's always good practice to use the method accessor. It's just good practice. We're mainly just using static at the moment because we're using the main method, and the main method just basically can't initiate an object. That's basically the main reason, so we're just using it static because it belongs to the class. Once again, you're probably thinking what the hell's going on, but this will be explained in later videos. I just want you to understand the concept of using methods and variables. So hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and please watch the next one. Thanks.